So girls, I've finished sewing it on. You see, I have just a few stitches here and there and they look neat. It feels like I should add one more here, but I'm not sure yet. For now, I'll leave it as is. So, we're done with the felt and the little pumpkin. Here's how wonderful it turned out from all sides. We're going to move on to the hat. Now we're going to move on to working on the hat for our little pumpkin. I'm taking the same cord that I used to crochet. The stem, 3.5 polyester, and a 3.5 millimeter hook. Let's start crocheting. We begin with a slip knot, which I've already shown you. The short end over the long one. Insert the hook from underneath and now we are going to carefully crochet the initial 2.5 centimeters of our project without the need for counting individual rows or stitches, as we will be working continuously in a spiral fashion. It's important not to tighten your stitches here, so crochet quite loosely. I've left a rather large loop, as you can see here, and I recommend you keep an eye on this as well. We make 3 loose chains here, that is, they should be fairly large. 1, 2, 3. Here are our 3 chains. Next, like a stem, we're going to close our chain of 3 stitches. And the chain is facing inward. We carefully find the very first bar of the initial chain, specifically the uppermost bar, which is located at the top. We insert the hook there, grab the working yarn, and pull through 2 loops on the hook, making sure to pull out a fairly loose loop, not a short one. Next, just as we did for the stem, we now crochet into each bar in a spiral, using a slip stitch to bring up the height. We need to make it 2.5 centimeters long. So here is our next bar. We insert the hook under it. Grab the working yarn and pull the loop through. Don't tighten it, pull out large loops. The next bar, here it is. We insert, pull through, and complete the stitch. Next, here comes the next one already asking to be done. This is how we get a height of 2.5 centimeters for this particular part. I will knit, for example, exactly twice more, and then I will stop. Or 3 times like this. Next, now we start counting the rows, meaning we don't count this fragment in any way, we just attached it in a spiral. And then we will continue crocheting in a spiral, but now with counting, because without counting it will be very hard to keep track here. So what do? Just like we did with the stem, we do the same here. We take this loop that we have left, remove the hook, and we need to insert it behind the neighboring one, the one that's facing us right here. Yes. And then with the cords we have the working yarn here, we make a stitch like this and pull the working yarn back through. What do we have now? We have 3 bars here all around, 1, 2, 3, into which we will now crochet 2 single crochets each. Here it's best to tighten the stitches a bit. Why? So that this transition doesn't look too messy, because that can happen and then you'll have to fuss with it. So make sure to tighten them. We insert the hook under the first one. Here is the bar and behind it is our newly formed loop. See, here's the loop and here's the first bar inserted. Yarn over and pull through. Crochet it short, also keep it short. We crochet into the same place again. Insert, pull through, crochet. Right here into this loop, which is now on the hook, and from it comes the loop on the hook, right? Here it is. We place a marker. This is our first stitch of the first row. We've attached 2 here. Here's the next bar. We simply crochet just 1 and 2 the same way. Briefly. And here's the third bar. Actually, if you make a mistake with the crossbar and use a different one, it won't be critical. So don't worry if you lose something somewhere. Insert, pull through, knit, and again you will insert your needle, then pull the yarn through and finally knit the stitch. Here's what we have. The initial increase looks pretty messy, but wait, please don't rush ahead. What exactly do we need to do next? Now, we meticulously need to knit the entire second row as well, carefully making a single crochet stitch under each and every one of these foundational chains without introducing any additional increases whatsoever. So we already have 5 chains here in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The loop on the hook does not count. We insert the hook under the chain where the marker is. Grab the working yarn and pull it through as well. Continue to consistently tighten your stitches, and then we carefully crochet a single crochet stitch and gently move our stitch marker to the newly formed stitch. Let's keep going. We look for the next chain. Here it is. Here's the next chain. We carefully insert the crochet hook, then gently grab the working yarn and meticulously crochet very tightly, much tighter than usual, and then finally make a single crochet stitch. Let's keep going. Here's the next one. It's a bit hard to twist your hand right now, but that's just for these first few parts. After that, everything will go smoothly. Insert, pull through, crochet. 1. We crochet once into each chain, and again one more time. The next chain. First, we insert the hook, then we pull the yarn through, next we crochet, and now there's just one stitch left before we reach the marker. We carefully insert the hook, grab the working yarn, gently pull it through, and then we crochet. So, all the way around, counting precisely from the marker, we now have exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 individual chains. This is already our second row. We've finished crocheting it. In the third row, we make increases again. We crochet 2 stitches into each chain. Remove the marker, crochet under this chain where the marker was 2 single crochets, that is, an increase. Insert, pull through, crochet it, and let's insert it once again. First, we should carefully place a marker so that we can precisely mark the initial primary position. Stitch, the first stitch of this row. And here once again we crochet a single crochet. Also keep it tight for now. The next stitch, do the same thing. Twice under it we crochet single crochets. 1, 2. Again the next stitch, again we crochet twice. 1, 2. Another stitch. 1, 2 stitches, and then another stitch carefully placed, creating a beautiful pattern. 1, 2. So you now have twice as many stitches. Let's count, starting from the one with the marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So in the third row we have 10. We remove the marker and start knitting the fourth row. 1 stitch in each chain. The first one, put the marker back. Let the marker always help you so you don't get lost. In the next one, again a single stitch, meaning we are not making any increases, just crocheting 1 into each chain. And this is our fourth row. I highly recommend, if you're not going to crochet the hat in one sitting, to write down which row you're on, because it will be hard to keep count. So if you stop at the 20th row, write it down for yourself, and then you can continue working calmly. So right now I'm moving along, crocheting each chain with a single crochet. And I'm also doing this tightly, but I'm also keeping an eye on it, meaning I'm visually checking how it's expanding. If it allows, you can make it looser. This will depend on how your work is turning out. So again, we're reaching the marker. We have 10 chains. Check yourself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 without the loop on the hook. And for rows 5, 6, and 7, we crochet 10 each like this. So we continue this process. I inserted the hook, crocheted, and placed the marker. This is my 5th row. I crochet the 5th row like this, reach the end. I move the marker for the 6th row, reach the end, move the marker for the 7th row, reach the end, and move the marker again. And at the end of the 7th row, we'll meet up and continue crocheting together. Where there are increases, I will explain everything. Where we repeat the stitches, we'll do that on our own. So you understand, for the 5th row, I'm now crocheting 10 stitches under each chain. While I was talking, I almost reached the 6th row already. Well, let's do the 6th row. Let's make the transition to the 6th row together at first, so it's comfortable. We make the transition to the 6th row, that is, we attach the loop where the marker was. Be sure to mark the marker, absolutely. And we keep going. Rows 6 and 7, and then we'll meet again. We've knitted 7 rows, now we move on to the 8th. There will be 2 increases in the 8th row. We'll make the first one with a single stitch and place a marker. Now, about the increases. Where will we make them? I'll show and mark them with markers. We'll make them. You can do them as I do, but symmetrically. That is, I'll make the next increase and directly opposite it. Another increase. I'm not really counting here, but in general, it's every 5th one. Where there are just 2 increases, you don't really need to count, but when there are more, we'll take it more seriously. And basically, we're knitting under these little braids. 2 stitches under some and 1 under all the others. Is that clear? I remove the marker and work 2 stitches. 1, 2. Then, carefully up to the next marker, I continue with precisely 1 single stitch each time. Okay. No increases. I'm removing the marker. And I am carefully crocheting twice into this very same stitch, right here. And then I will carefully and precisely continue my work to the designated marker, meticulously placing 1 single stitch at a time. I think in principle the pattern is clear, right? So we're expanding. We're transitioning to the 9th row. We're crocheting a stitch. The first stitch of the 9th row. Okay? And for the 9th and 10th rows, we'll crochet 12 stitches. So we're crocheting 1 single crochet into each stitch. We already have an increase here. So we have 2 stitches here, and accordingly the number of stitches increases. We're now carefully crocheting the 9th and 10th rows, working 1 stitch into each individual stitch. We will then meet up at the very end of the 10th row once all stitches have been completed. And we'll continue moving forward. This is our 9th project and I have almost finished completing it. We'll meet at the end of the 10th. We're at the end of the 10th row. We should have 12 stitches. Counting from the one with the marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The loop on the hook doesn't count. We're crocheting the first stitch of the 13th row. 1. We place the marker. And into the same spot, we crochet 1 more stitch. This is our increase. So we've already made one initial increase and we will proceed to make 3 additional increases. Specifically, every third stitch that we create will be designated as an increase. Therefore, to keep track of our progress and ensure accuracy, we can make a clear and visible mark. Let's make a mark, just in case, because it might be a little unclear. We've made one increase. Next, we count 1, 2, 3 and place the marker. This will be the second increase. Next, the stitch after this marker is counted as 1, 2, 3. Then we place a marker. This will be another increase. And accordingly, 1, 2, 3, another increase. So in this row, we will have 4 increases. We've already made the first one together. Knit one simple stitch now. Next, 2. First, carefully remove the stitch marker and then knit twice under this very same chain. That's 1, 2 and then increase. Next, we will smoothly move on with 1, 2 and continue our work. We'll make an increase. 1. Next again 1. 2. And where the marker is, increase 2, stop. 1 and in the same place 2. And up to the marker, this marker indicates the beginning of the row, just attach 2, stop. Count, you should have, for example, 16 chains, including the one with the marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And 16. The loop on the hook is counted. So we've made the increases. We have 16. And this is the 11th row. From rows 12 to 15, we crochet the same number of stitches without any increases. That is, we simply continue in a spiral for 4 more rows, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Basically, we do this on our own, meaning insert the hook, pull through, and crochet. Mark that you've moved on to the 12th row. Crochet to the 13th, move the marker, 14th, move the marker, 15th. And before the 16th, we'll meet up and continue crocheting together. Let's go. So we're at the end of the 15th row. Let's check how many stitches we have. We start counting from the stitch where the marker is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. We move on to the 16th row. We knit the braid where the marker was and place the marker. In the 16th row, we will have 2 increases. We will do the same in the place where we made 2 increases before. We will proceed to make the very first increase in our knitting project immediately after completing this particular section that we have just meticulously knitted. Subsequently, we will execute the second increase directly opposite to the first one, for instance, precisely at this designated point on the fabric, ensuring a balanced and symmetrical outcome in our work. That is, you can visually count it like this. 16 divided by 2 is every 8th. So if you want, you can do it this way or that way. Every 8th increase means, for example, 1, 2, and then we make an increase. We move towards the marker without making any increases. Here, I stopped pulling so tightly. Earlier, I was keeping the shape and needed to expand carefully, but now it's a bit easier. However, that is not entirely necessary. It's truly up to you to decide. So now we've reached the marker and then we make a significant increase. 1, 2. Then we continue towards the marker without any increases. We just crochet 1 stitch in each and every stitch around. This is indeed our 16th row. After completing all of the increases, we should now have a total of 18 stitches. You can easily check this yourself by carefully counting them. The very next row that we will be working on will be row 17. We move on to it and place the marker. In the 17th row, we crochet 1 stitch in each without any increases. So we'll also have 18 stitches in this row. So let's crochet row 17. And we'll meet again at row 18. There will be increases again and we'll continue on. We finished the 17th row, moving on to the 18th row. Let's make the first stitch. Secure it firmly with a marker, please. In this row, we need to make 2 increases. We'll carefully place one right here, immediately after our very first initial stitch, and the other will be positioned directly opposite, ensuring a balanced and symmetrical arrangement. Again, I'm doing this by eye. You can count or just do it by eye. Where there are 2 increases, I don't count. Otherwise, you divide the number of stitches. You have 18, divide by 2. Every 9th stitch will be an increase, so count 9, and on the 9th make the increase. Let's make the increases. One and another in the same place. Let's move to the next one. When you reach the marker, make an increase. And continue to the end of the row. So in this row, we will have 20 stitches. Yes. And we knit the 19th and 20th rows as well with 20 stitches each without any increases. Let's do this on our own. So I'm moving on to the 19th row. I mark it for myself and we continue 2 rows on our own with 20 stitches each. We'll meet again after that. At the end of the 20th row, we move on to the 21st row. Now, at this point, we have exactly 20 stitches all the way around. In the upcoming 21st row, we are going to make precisely 4 increases. So for the moment, I am not knitting anything at all. I will carefully place a marker right here, where we will have our very first increase. That's right after our marker, the one that marks the first stitch. Next, we have 20 stitches. So in a circle, we divide 20 by 4. That is, we divide 4 increases by 4, which gives us 5. So we place a marker on every 5th stitch, and that's where we'll make the increase. So first we count 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and finally 5 stitches, and then we place our marker. This is a crucial step to keep track of our progress. Following that, we repeat the process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches, and then we place another marker. We continue this pattern, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches, and placing yet another marker. We do this precisely like that, ensuring each section is clearly delineated. In total, we will have 4 increases, which means we will be using 4 markers to indicate these specific points in our work. We will knit these sections in exactly the same way as the previous ones. Initially, we will simply knit it plain, without any special stitches or patterns. It is very important not to forget that we always mark this particular chain. This specific chain represents our very first stitch, and marking it helps us maintain accuracy and consistency throughout the entire project. Next, we will make an increase. First 1 stitch, then 2 stitches. After that, we will place 1 stitch into each subsequent stitch until we reach the next marker on our work. First, carefully remove the marker, then gently increase 1 stitch, and then another one in precisely the same place. Continue with 1 stitch in each individual stitch until you reach the very next marker. And precisely where the stitch marker is currently placed, you will need to carefully make an increase. This involves working 2 stitches into that single stitch. So you will count 1 stitch, then the second stitch. Following this, you will continue counting 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches. Then, on the very next stitch, which is the 5th stitch in your sequence, you will once again make an increase, working 2 stitches into that particular stitch. This ensures the correct expansion of your work at these designated points. And don't forget, 1 marker marks the beginning of the row. So we move towards the marker. Here you count the number of stitches. You should have 24 since we added 4. So we've already finished row 21 and we've made decreases in it. Now we move on to row 22, make the first stitch and mark it with a marker. And we knit rows 22, 23 and 24 with 24 stitches each. And then we continue together. So we've completed 24 rows in the round, each with 24 stitches. We move on to row 25. Mark the first stitch with a marker. In this row, we will have 2 increases. We do it here and directly opposite, following the same pattern. If you keep count, you'll make an increase in every 12th stitch. Since we have 24 stitches in the round, we divide by 2, which is 12. We count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is where we'll make the increase. Now we will carefully knit the very first increase. 2 stitches. Then we continue knitting without increases until the next marker. We have now reached the marker. Please make an increase. 1, 2. And then, subsequently, we move on to the prominent red marker, which distinctly marks the very beginning of the entire row. This is our 25th row. After the increases, we have 26 stitches. And we knit 1 more row. With this number of stitches, that is, without any increases. Let's do this on our own. So we've finished the 25th row, right? Now we move on to the 26th and knit it by ourselves. The first stitch is number 26. Place a marker and continue the row on your own. We'll meet up and continue. Let's move on to row 27. Crochet the first stitch. Mark it with a marker. Here we'll have 4 increases. Right now we have 26 stitches in the round. And we need to distribute them so that we make 4 increases. 26 can't be evenly divided by 4, meaning there's a remainder. So what does that mean for our math? Dividing 26 by 4 gives us 6 whole parts and then a bit left over. And that bit left over. So we'll need to do an increase every 6th stitch. That's it. That's the trick we're going to use. 6, 6, 6, 7. I'm marking the first increase here. Next on 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Next up now on 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On 7. And then again at 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here's the arithmetic. And everything is by analogy. We make an increase. 1, 2. Next, then we will move to the designated marker. To the marker. And we make an increase. 1. Now for the second one. These are indeed the specific columns. And an increase. We have one last increase left. Here we have the red marker indicates the beginning of the row. Be careful at this point. So you don't get confused. We've reached the marker. Increase. 1, 2. And we just move to the end of the row. We now have 30 stitches in the round. Check yourself, count them. And now we move on to row 28. And rows 28, 29, 30, and 31 we knit with the same number of stitches, 30 each. So 4 more rows, 28, 29, 30, and 31. Knit these on your own and then we'll continue together. So now we have successfully reached the very end of row number 31 and we are now moving on to row number 32. In row 31 we had 30 stitches and in row 32 we make 2 increases. Just like before, we do it the same way as we did previously. Place a marker on the 15th stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. This will be the second increase. Make the first increase. Then continue on to the next one. When you eventually reach the designated marker, please make an increase and continue to the end of the row. And we will have one more row. This is the 33rd, which will be knitted with this number of stitches, that is 32 stitches, without any increases. We made the increases here, and the next row will be without increases. We'll knit it on our own. Now we'll do the transition together and then continue on your own. We went up to the marker. We knit the first stitch, and then for this row, which is the 33rd, we simply knit one stitch in each, so we'll end up with 32 stitches. We'll meet at the end of this row. At the end of the 33rd row, we move on to the 34th row. We make the first stitch and place the marker. And in this row, we make 4 increases since we have 32 stitches in the round. We divide 32 by 4, which gives us 8, so we place a marker on every 8th stitch. We will mark the very first increase right here, and then we will carefully count off exactly 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Place a marker. Do the same here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Place a marker. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Place a marker. And then subsequently, we make deliberate increases of 2 stitches at each designated marker point. 1, 2. Then continue to the next marker with single crochets. I won't show this on camera anymore since we've basically gone over it many times already. Let's knit this row with increases, then I'll explain what to do next, and we'll continue knitting. Now I'll make one more increase on camera and then continue on my own. I'm making an increase. And then I have 2 more increases remaining, which are still left to complete. This particular marker clearly indicates the very beginning of the current row because we have already made an increase right next to it. So please don't forget that important detail. See you at the end of this row. We have finished knitting row 34 with increases. We knit row 35 with this number of stitches. Now we have 36. So I mark the beginning of the row and knit 1 stitch into each chain. Knit this row on your own. We should have 36 stitches here. Next we move on. With each row of increases, the hat will start to widen more intensively. I'm getting ahead of myself, so see you at the end of this row. Let's move on to row 36. We make the first stitch and place a marker. In this row, we need to make 4 increases. We have 36 stitches in the round. We divide by 4 and get 9. We make an increase at every 9th stitch. The first one, as always, we've marked with a marker. This is our first increase. Next, we count from the next chain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Mark it with a marker. Place a marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and finally 9 in total. Marker. One, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8, 9. Marker. Accordingly, we have 4 increases, and the red marker indicates the beginning of the row. We make increases. The first increase. And so at each marker, we make increases, and between the markers, we crochet single crochets. I won't go into detail about this anymore. Everything is done by analogy. We crochet this row, making 4 increases, and we'll meet at the end of the row. Let's continue. We are at the end of the 36th row. We have 40 stitches around. Let's move on to row 37. We mark it with a marker. And in the 37th row, we will also have 4 increases. Since we're making increases row after row, I want to point out that if we make an increase directly on top of an increase from the previous row, you'll get waves in your work. So it's better to make the increases after the increases of the previous row. What does that look like? What does an increase look like? Watch closely. An increase looks like this. You have 2 stitches coming out of one root. The root is where I'm pointing with the hook. That's your increase. The spot after the increase is right here, the next stitch that's located after the increase. If you learn to tell the difference, you won't need to count anything. You just find the increases around the circle and place a marker after them. In principle, it's quite easy because if you compare the stitches without increases to those with increases, they look very different, right? Meaning 2 stitches come out of one root and that spot looks wider. So we place the markers after the increases from the previous row. If for some reason this is difficult and you don't understand, then just space them out the way we spaced out our little increases before. Divide 40 by 4 and place 1 every 10th stitch. Just be sure to shift the first one so you don't end up right on top of an increase from the previous row to avoid creating those waves. And well, yes, that's how it is. And so we'll make 4 increases in the 37th row in the same way. We make the first one where the first marker is. 1, 2, these are indeed numbers. And we'll go around making increases at all the markers and we'll meet back on the 38th row. We're at the end of the 37th row and we're moving on to the 38th. Place the marker. And in the 38th row, we'll also have 4 increases which we'll make after the increases from the previous row. I find the first increase. Here it is. So I look very carefully and observe. I distinguish that here precisely 2 distinct columns emerge from a single unified base, and subsequent to their emergence, I then proceed to make my very first initial mark. Next, the second one, accordingly after the second increase. The third after the third. Or you count 44, divide by 4, and simply place markers at every 11th, whichever is more convenient for you, right? We've already moved on to the 38th row. We knit our increases. And we will continue to keep moving forward. We will meet at the very end of this particular row. Here we will then make an increase. The 38th row is done, and I have 2 rows left for the base of the hat after moving on to the brim. Yes, before moving on to the brim. But everything will really depend on the diameter of your pumpkin's head. It might already be bigger or smaller, and accordingly, you may need to knit a bit more or stop earlier. It depends on your individual situation. We'll see as we go. So you can simply knit a couple more rows by analogy. It's all straightforward, or stop wherever is convenient for you. In the 39th and 40th rows, the number of increases will go up and we will make 6 increases per row. So I have 48 stitches in the round. If I divide them by 6, I get 8. So I make an increase in every 8th stitch. We will make a marker like this. So I carefully mark the very first stitch of the 39th row. Next, I can then make the increase right after it, immediately following the first stitch. Then I meticulously count 8 stitches, place a marker, then another 8 stitches, and finally another marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And here I place a marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. That's all. And I place a marker. We've placed 6 markers, yes. The red one marks the beginning of the row. All the others are for increases. We're making increases. You can also, If you're not getting the right size, if you realize you need it to be much wider, you can loosen your knitting, meaning knit less tightly. This will help to widen it. So you just pull the loops out a little more. But keep these loops short. We make an increase, then we knit a single stitch, also a bit looser. I'll also knit a bit looser because my pumpkin here is a bit larger in diameter. Accordingly, I might also have to knit an extra row. But by loosening the knitting just a little so that it looks nice and isn't noticeable, yes. I'm widening the diameter. Well, this is the crown of our pumpkin, our cap. That's it. Let's continue working row 39 to the end on our own, making increases, and we'll do row 40 together. Row 39 is completely knitted, and we move on to row 40. We knit the first stitch, marking the beginning of the row. In this row, there will also be 6 increases, which we make at the increases of the previous row. That is, here I have the first increase from the previous row, and I'll place a marker at it. And we place 6 markers around the circle accordingly. Or you can, there are 54 stitches in the round. You divide by 6, you get 9, and you mark every 9th stitch with a marker. Yes. And the last one. Let's knit the increases. We'll do the first one together. Yes, I'm knitting more loosely, so that the cap fits on the pumpkin. The first increase. We knit all the increases like this. We will meet at the very end of this process and then try it on our carved pumpkin. So girls, I've knitted 40 rows. Let's take our pumpkin and try it on. What do we see? Basically, the cap covers the pumpkin's head just fine, but the idea behind this pumpkin is also that the brim should rest on the table as if it were drooping down. To achieve this, either the brim needs to be made larger or the cap itself. I suggest knitting one more row for the cap. Who else has the same situation? If your cap covers too much of your pumpkin, then stop and move on and start working on the brim. But if yours is like mine, meaning yes, it still needs a bit more, just a bit more, right? You can still cover it like this, definitely 1 or 2 more rows, so go ahead. So what do? We simply make each following row with 6 increases per row. I mark it for myself, meaning I find the increases from the previous row. There are 6 of them, and I place a marker after each one. This means I will be knitting 6 at a time, right? Like this. I'll knit 1 or 2 more rows like this following the same pattern. So if I knit just one, it won't be enough for me. I make the same markings, do a second round, and then we'll meet up, check it, and move on to the brim. So girls, I've knitted another 41 to 42 rows. And this is how my hat is shaping up. It already covers the head well, and basically that's it. You can start working on the brim. So I'll repeat once more. You can knit as many rows as you need in the same way. We'll have enough cord. We have 2 skeins, and that's more than enough, so you don't need to worry about that. So let's move on to the fields. To move on to the fields, we need to make a preparatory row, which is done with slip stitches. Let me show you how. Remove the marker and insert the hook under the chain where the marker was. Yarn over with the working yarn and immediately pull through the chain. Return the marker under this chain. This is our first slip stitch. Next, insert the hook under the following chain, yarn over and make a slip stitch. Once again, pull through and immediately finish the stitch. So we make a slip stitch under each chain. In this way, we form the first row, which will be the base for crocheting the brim. We are working in the round. At the end, we will count the number of our stitches and move on to crocheting the rows of the brim itself. So let's continue to the end on your own, and then we'll continue together. I'm finishing the row of slip stitches. The last one is made before the stitch where the marker is. The number of these chains that you have crocheted, starting from the first one where the marker is and ending with this one where we made the last chain before the marker, should match the number of stitches in the last row you crocheted. For me, this number is 72, but yours may be different if you added row. Everyone should refer to their own number. In the first row of our brim, we will make 6 increases. So I divide my number, 72, by 6 and get 12. That means every 12th chain here is an increase. Let's make the marking. I'll crochet the first one and then we'll start marking. Pay attention to how we crochet the first stitch. We insert the hook under this chain that we see. So we'll be inserting the hook under the chain. Behind us, behind this whole part, there will also be connecting bars. We don't touch them. We only need these chains. We grab the working yarn, pull it through and make a single crochet. We place a marker. This is our first single crochet of the first row of the brim. Next, we start counting. On every 12th stitch, we make an increase. By the way, let's make an increase in the next stitch and then we'll continue marking, just like we did when crocheting the crown. Again, we insert the hook under the chain, grab the working yarn, pull up a loop and make a single crochet. Into the same chain, we insert the hook, grab the working yarn, pull it through and make a stitch. The first increase is done. Now let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We will now carefully place a marker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We are marking this spot. Marker. So, and here the 6th increase is done. That is, you should have in total, we don't count this marker. It just marks the beginning of the row for us. We count these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 6th is done. That's correct. We crochet a row of single crochets through the back loop, that is, insert the hook under the back loop, grab the working yarn, and crochet. Next, back loop. Here, pull the loop out nicely, don't tighten it. Keep these loops short. We continue like this to the end of the row, making increases at the markers. And then subsequently we will move on to the second row and our established pattern will then change considerably. So I'll see you at the end of the row. So the first row of the brim is done and the increases are made. I ended up with 78 stitches. You may have a different number here, all right? Each following row will have 6 increases. That is to say, the hat will continue to expand in size, but we are now switching the pattern from a single crochet stitch to a double crochet stitch, which will create a different texture and appearance. How to crochet it for those who have never crocheted before. We make the first stitch where our marker was. We make a yarn over like this on our hook. Insert the hook under the chain where the marker was. Grab the working yarn. And the stitch looks as follows. We crochet 2 loops on the hook together with the third one. And we still have 2 loops left on the hook, so we crochet them together once more. So twice 2 loops together, we place a marker here. This is our first stitch. In this row, we also have 6 increases. They will be made at the increases of the previous row. Everything here is very convenient. So here is the first increase from the previous row. I place a marker after it. We've already covered increases here, so girls, I won't dwell on this anymore, or make the calculations by analogy as we did before. Divide the number of stitches by 6 and you'll get the value where you place the marker. Or you can find the increase from the previous row like this and place the marker. It's very convenient. For now, I'm using a marker for marking. But in fact, experienced knitters easily manage without markers. They just see the increase and keep knitting. But I'll still keep marking. It's just easier. And you won't miss an increase because if you're knitting while watching a show, you can easily miss them, even if you have 500,000 years of experience. Oh, here's what we have. The increases are marked. Let's go over our pattern again. A double crochet stitch. Yarn over, insert the hook under the next chain. Grab the working yarn. We have 3 loops on the hook. We crochet the first 2 together first, and then the next 2. Yarn over again, insert the hook under the first horizontal one, or rather under the next horizontal chain, grab the working yarn, crochet 2, 2. The stitches turn out long and the fabric expands even better. We've reached the increase, remove the marker, yarn over, insert the hook under this chain, grab the working yarn, crochet 2, 2, and make an increase, yarn over and into the same place. Under the same chain stitch where we just attached the first double crochet, we make the second one. Pull through attached 2, 2. That is, increases in all double crochets are made the same way, right? Into the same base, under the same chain stitch. Yarn over, insert under the chain stitch, pull through, attach 2, 2. Yarn over, insert under the chain stitch, pull through, work 2, 2. Move to the next marker with single crochets, then make increases, and continue like this to the very end of the row. Work on your own, we'll meet at the end and continue. The second row is done, only the last part remains. The chain stitch before the marker, I work it with a double crochet. Next, I remove the marker and move on to the third row. We continue crocheting with double crochets. Don't forget to mark the beginning of the row with a marker. And in the next row, the third one, we also make an increase. Increases are made above the increases of the previous row. Here is the increase from the previous row. Look, 2 long double crochets come out from the same base. Or you can carefully calculate it if it's truly hard for you to clearly see. Right now, after the significant increases, I currently have 78 plus an additional 6, which precisely totals 84 stitches. I then meticulously divide them by 6 and consequently get exactly 14. So I will make a single increase in every 14th stitch, ensuring a consistent pattern. Choose the method that works best for you. Actually, I mark things out on camera so that everything is as clear as possible. And I continue crocheting with double crochets. Yarn over under the top loop. Pull through, crochet 2. Yarn over and then carefully insert your hook into the very top loop. Then yarn over again, pull through 2, and then pull through the final 2 loops. We will make the very first increase together, and then you can confidently continue on your own from there. So we've reached the increase, yarn over, 1, 2, and then into the very same exact place. 1, 2. And then we will proceed to move to the very end of the current row. Do this on your own, then we'll continue together. I've reached the point where I need to add a new cord. I'll show on camera how to do it. Here's how we do it. For now, I continue with this cord. I yarn over, insert the hook under the chain, pull through, and work off 2 loops on the hook. Then I simply continue with the next cord. So I leave a little tail and work off the last 2 loops on the hook. For now, you can tie these 2 ends together. Later, at the end, we'll sew everything in place, but for now, to keep them from changing the size of your stitches or coming loose, it's better to secure them somehow. Then you just keep going with the new cord and we'll sew in these tails later. Just like that. Save this option to your collection. And we continue. 3 rows are now completely done, and we will move on to the 4th row. Then yarn over and carefully work the very first stitch. In this row, we also make 6 increases. I keep track of the increases from the previous row. Here's an increase. I place a marker, then again an increase and a marker. In the purple hat on the second pumpkin, I have a total of 6 full rows. But again, just like with the beautiful crown and the protective pine cap, we can easily change this particular number and subsequently add many more additional rows if that is indeed truly needed. For now, I can't say whether I'll add more rows because I need to try it on the pumpkin. We knit this row in the same way, making increases, and we'll meet at the end. At the end of the 4th row, we move on to the 5th. We've finished the first stitch, and in the 5th row, we make increases after every stitch. So we crochet a single stitch. There, we've done a single stitch, and next we make an increase. Once and again. So we're really increasing the number of stitches significantly. Next up for us, a single stitch, meaning without an increase. After the single stitch, an increase. So we alternate. There's really no point in marking this with markers. You'll just end up fiddling more, taking the marker off and putting it back on. Just keep track yourself. You've done 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Continue like this until the end of the row. In my original, I have a total of 6 rows and then a final edging. But you can add more rows if needed. In the 5th row, we make the number of increases I mentioned. At the end, we'll count the number of stitches and continue. I'm at the end of the 5th row. My last stitch here will be an increase. Here 1, 2. I currently have 144 stitches all the way around, but your specific number may be quite different if you have changed or adjusted anything. The number of rows. So the last row is the 6th one. We don't make any increases. We just knit the same number of stitches, that is 1 stitch into each chain. Next, we'll measure our pumpkin to see how it looks and whether we need to knit more. For me, it turns out that I don't need to knit anymore. It sits nicely, meaning you can place the hat so that the brim rests on the table. That was my idea, to have a wide brim. We finish knitting the last row and try it on. If you need to knit another row, if not, stop and do the final edging. We hide the ends and our Halloween pumpkin will be ready. So we'll meet at the end of the 6th row and see how to proceed from there. I'm almost at the end of the 6th row. I still have a few stitches left unfinished here, so don't finish them yet. Let's try it on and see how our hat is turning out and whether the size fits. And if it fits, we'll finish up. If not, we'll keep going. All right, let's put it on the pumpkin. The little hat. This is what I wanted, for it to lie on the table. Of course, it needs to close properly here, but it shouldn't be too long either. Here it bends, here a natural wave forms, and you can play around with it. The brim is long enough. I'll measure mine so you have a reference point, starting from this first row. So what do we get? It comes out to 9.5 centimeters. These are the brims of our hat. So we finished the knitting. If you need to knit one more row, then just continue for one more row. You can make about 10 to 12 increases if you want your hat to flare out more nicely, according to your preference. If you want to leave it as I did, I won't be adding any more rows because the length is enough for me and everything sits nicely. Then thank you. So without finishing the last few stitches, here I have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left. I want to smoothly transition to the final edging to change the size gradually. So what do? For the next stitch, I crochet it tightly to shorten its length. That is, I pull it as tight as possible. For another stitch, I yarn over, insert the hook under the chain, grab the working yarn, and pull through all 3 loops on the hook. This is like a half double crochet. In this way, I also decrease the crochet. Next, under the following chain, I insert the hook, grab the working yarn, pull up a loop, and make a single crochet. And one more. Into the last one, I insert the hook, grab the working yarn, and make a slip stitch. I decreased smoothly. The row, slightly lowering its height. Next, I carefully remove the marker then. And I insert the hook. Here we have a row of stitches. We are making the final edging. We insert the hook behind the top loop of each stitch, or behind the back loop. Grab the working yarn, pull through a loop, and make a slip stitch. I'll also place a marker here so I don't lose my place. Will be the end of the edging. Again, I go under the back loop or the top loop of the next stitch. Grab the working yarn, make a slip stitch. Again, under the loop, grab the yarn, make a slip stitch with a slip stitch. Under the loop, grab the yarn, make a slip stitch. So you understand, right? So we continue this way until we reach the marker. And with this, we will be finishing the pumpkin itself. We'll also add a yellow edging like this around the top. And with that, our masterclass on creating a pumpkin will be complete. We're finishing up the edging, making the last stitches now. Making the last stitches now. Next, look, we have a marker here, right? And there's a noticeable gap forming. What can we do? We remove the marker. We know it was on this loop. Pull out the working yarn. Cut it, but leave about 10 centimeters because we'll still be closing off the work. And what do? We insert the hook from back to front under the stitch, the one right after where the marker was. We grab our yarn tail and pull it back through. Don't pull anything tight here. And we need to bring it back to the spot where it originally came out. To do this, we insert the hook into the same stitch where the yarn came out, just in front of it, grab this tail and pull it back through. And that's it, we have a smooth, seamless finish. Our adorable hat is almost completely ready. We still definitely need to carefully add the decorative edging at the precise junction between the main crown and the wide brim, specifically using the vibrant yellow color that we previously utilized for our charming little pumpkin. I am now taking the remaining leftover cord to finish this beautiful piece. For working with it, you'll need a 4.5mm hook from any spot. You can start from where we finished crocheting. Here, actually, this is where we had the transition. We start the edging with slip stitches. Here's our row, the first row of the brim. How do you identify it? First, it has a distinctive ribbed texture. Second, right after it, there are single crochet stitches. We need to insert the hook in front of this row into the holes that serve as openings between the stitches. That is, between each stitch there is a space for easy crocheting. So I insert the hook here. Here I have the yellow yarn, I pull it through. Next I pick up the working yarn here like this. Here it is, resting gently on my finger, and now I carefully insert the crochet hook into each individual hole and proceed to crochet quite densely as well, utilizing precise and neat slip stitches. Like this. Densely, preferably without skipping any, so let these be lush short stitches. In this particular way, we will carefully crochet all the way around the entire circle. And with that, our little hat will be finished, as well as the whole pumpkin. You'll just really need to carefully deal with the very ends of your project. Either meticulously sew them in or carefully burn them off, whichever method truly works best and is most suitable for you. Please do it exactly that way. At the end, we'll finish up and I'll show you how to close off this crochet work. And then right after that, we'll carefully take a look at our beautiful pumpkin. This is the kind of beauty you get a line like this, a braid. We finish the edging. We can stop one stitch before the start of the edging in orange or yellow. We pull out 10 centimeters, cut them off, and close the knitting with a false stitch. How is it done? We need to insert the hook like this from the side of the brim to the crown under the first orange chain. We grab our tail, pull it back, and return the tail into the loop from which it came out. To do this, of course, we need to get in all the way from under the brim. This is how we insert the hook. Grab it, the working tail, and pulled it back. Tightened it so it looks nice. And the hat with the edging is already finished. Let's hide the ends. You can sew them in or burn them, whichever you prefer. I won't show that on camera anymore. We do it the same way as I showed on the pumpkin. And let's take a look at our characters, see what we've got. All right, girls. The pumpkin finally got its hat, and let's try it on. We bend the hat however we like. I'll show you like this, because you can't see it from this angle. Here, the brim is lying on the table. Here we can do whatever we want with it. We can bend it like this. And here is what a handsome little guy we've got. Dear girls, of course I want to show you this cheerful, bright little pumpkin from this angle, where you can see it completely, including the hat. I'm finishing this masterclass, and I'm very grateful to everyone who got inspired, who liked it, and who create this pumpkin together with me. This was Oksana Rudko with you. My brand of knitted bags is Lei Accessory. See you at the next masterclasses.